to the Athletes in Motion podcast, From Race to Recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
We're live.
We are live.
Hey, Kenny.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Want to introduce you to Copernicus here.
Absolutely. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you as well. Kenny, we know each other.
Yeah, we know each other.
Good to see you again.
Yes. So Copernicus is the founder of Action Over Words, which is a lifestyle brand. I thought he would be a wonderful person to talk to for our podcast because of a couple things. He traditionally was a bodybuilder. Is that how you would identify yourself?
Yeah.
How do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as an athlete, a bodybuilder?
So we'll start with human being. So I would say now definitely more functional athlete style. Definitely leaning more to the athlete versus just the physique is the thing. So I've definitely adopted the whole mindset of, don't just look the part, actually be the part.
Okay.
And so I've definitely changed a lot, but we'll dive into that.
Yeah, in a second.
Yeah.
So he decided one day he wanted to run a marathon like most.
Of course. Doesn't everybody? Isn't that normal?
In the midst of bodybuilding. So welcome, Copernicus. You are
welcome.
our first podcast guest. So
I'm honored. I appreciate it.
Thank you for stepping into that role.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, glad to be here.
So give us sort of, before we get into the whole, hey, I decided to go run a marathon, give us a little background on why bodybuilding? How did you start sort of that journey?
For sure. Yeah. So without totally boring your audience for too long, but, and giving the whole life story, basically I started out just like most guys, definitely driven by the self-image type thing. So I wanted the aesthetics. I wanted the abs. Apparently abs are all that matters. So,
it's all the rage.
That was my top priority. So driven by the right thing, as you can tell.
Yeah.
So I really just wanted to definitely build up self-confidence. I was lacking in that regard. I wasn't really in good shape, wasn't popular. So it kind of started towards the tail end of middle school, I would say, is when the journey actually started. And then my brother was the athlete in the family. He played rugby, football, basketball, like you name it. And he wasn't the biggest guy, but he was super strong, like pound for pound. So lean frame, just looked great and everything. He was strong. So I always aspired for something like that. And I just never was that. So, I have a story like, I think it was when I was in about probably sophomore into junior year of high school. We were all downstairs, just me, my dad, and my brother, and we were just cranking out pull-ups because that's what guys do on a Saturday. So my brother was up there just, knocking them out, like he was floating up and down, weightless. And then my dad gets up there and he even cranked out a couple and he was like mid 50, closer to 60. So still cranking them out.
Careful.
Yeah, cranking them out. So, but like it was nothing. And then I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, this is not going to go well. And so I got out there. And so, like I said, it was about going into junior year of high school. I couldn't even do a single pull-up. And I just remember how defeating that felt. And I never won. I knew there was going to be a bigger purpose behind it, but I guess I didn't really know it at the time. I just never wanted anybody else to feel that way. So like when I got up to the bar, I was struggling. Everything was moving except for me in a vertical direction. So legs flailing, arms, noodle arms, everything. So so that was a very defining moment. And then once my dad and my brother, they jabbed at me, kind of poked fun. I was like, I really did adopt this whole kind of prove you wrong type mindset.
Nice.
Not that it's the best foot to, start off, but it was my catalyst and that's how I treated it. And then, so for I guess the year to 2 years after tail end of high school, that's when I really got started into working out. Definitely still driven by the whole somewhat vanity aspect. I thought, it would get the attention of girls, things like that. And girls don't really care. If you don't have a brain, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if you got a six pack. So I figured that out very quickly. And I don't know. It was just the more time that I spent in the gym, the more rewarding it felt just to make progress and just to see that, knowing that, the results you produce are a direct reflection of the effort you put forth. And so I made that switch very quickly. And then when people started asking me questions they actually asked me for advice. I was like, oh, Copernicus, you might actually be onto something besides just getting the physique, getting the aesthetics. So, trained for a few years, consistent, started seeing some really good results. Got towards tail end of college, and I graduated in 2013 from Alabama. I decided to step on stage for the first time, physique competition. No coach or anything, did my own prep, just, YouTube University. So I learned a lot through online means and bodybuilding.com. Any free resource I could find, I was diving into it. and it helped to have an exercise and sports science background as well.
Totally.
So those they went hand in hand pretty well and coincided together. But yeah, so with those two in my arsenal, I decided to take on a prep myself, got nationally qualified after my first show. And that just means you get to step on to kind of the big boy stage.
Now that's unusual, right? I mean, because you don't have a coach, you don't have, a prep person, and this is your first competition, and you nail it, basically.
Yeah. It's looking back, it's funny because I feel like I completely missed the boat. So I look back at the photos, I'm just like, oh my God, because you get in your head, especially first competition, the nerves start adding up. You don't have the coach, you don't have the team. So you start questioning your whole method once you get to that competition day. So, I dehydrated myself, and to the point, not to where I wasn't drinking any water, but to where I was just like, my head was just not in the right space. And, just to drop that extra little bit of water, but I'm like, then you realize it's just, you're either lean enough or you're not. It doesn't come down to the water intake. But anyway, I didn't figure that out until a couple of years later. But, you have to start somewhere. And yeah, it is a bit unusual, but I think it was just ever since that pull-up bar moment, I knew I wanted to make something more of myself and just to step on stage, put myself out there. That's not a very comfortable thing, or it wasn't at the time. And once it was really just the people starting to gravitate towards that types of energy that I just wanted to keep going with it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice. No, I mean, that's to do that unassisted it's almost like that. You're the beginner.
Yeah.
You have no idea. So
I was like, I might as well just do it. Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Exactly.
I mean, that's good. So what led you then to decide to run a longer distance? I mean, that's,
right.
And let's step back a little bit. So what was your training like for that? What did you set up?
Give us a week.
What does it look like? And what is your, let's tie in your recovery to that as part of your training. How did that all focus itself?
Definitely. I did not prioritize recovery nearly. I'm just going to be completely transparent on that.
Obviously, as a younger man, you didn't need to as much, but it's still important.
Right. Absolutely. I just really wish I realized the importance and just how imperative proper recovery regimen is. Because, I mean, if you're going to train your butt off and put the work in hour after hour, day after day in the gym, but you're not doing anything to combat that damage that you're doing to your body. I mean, beneficial damage. Your audience can't see the air quotes, but beneficial damage that you're doing and, imposing upon your body. I mean, you're going to be in a world of hurt, and you're definitely going to be more susceptible to injury. So, yeah, I think I was just riding on the youth train that it's just eat plenty, get the sleep, and I was in school, and I was working a little bit, but not that much. So I definitely had a hell of a lot more free time, on my hands. So just sleep, sleep, recover, eat, and that. But when it came to proper recovery regimen, I've always been big on mobility. I'm not really sure what that was. I think it was just researching online, just certain figures that I followed early on in the fitness space. They prioritize mobility and stretching. So I always have made that a staple. And I think that has helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
I've always been big on longevity. I think from the start, I knew in my head that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life, or as long as I possibly could. And so, when I would see people in the gym, either a bit older than me or the same age, and they're, moving around like they can barely bend over to tie their shoe, I was just like, I don't want to be that. If at all possible, if I can help mitigate that, I'm going to do whatever I can. So yeah, the stretching, I did that, mobility practices. But when it came to things like, cryo, compression, unfortunately, I just was ignorant on things like that. And I really think some of those methods hadn't really made it into, they hadn't made it to the mainstream.
Yeah, it's just getting into the mainstream now.
Right.
So yeah, certainly not at that point.
Yeah.
So just because I want to compare and contrast sort of what your week looked like as training like that, and then versus as you started getting into marathon. So give us kind of a glimpse. If let's just say I don't go to the gym all the time,
right?
What would that training regimen look like? What would that food regimen look like? What would that fuel sort of hydration look like?
Gotcha. Yeah. So definitely starting out, my training has shifted tremendously, but starting out with bodybuilding and just being fit in general, it was very much a bodybuilding split, one muscle group per day, hour and a half on just one muscle group, which is not efficient at all. But it did help to get that pump that you all changed, latter
but it's necessary, though, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It obviously produced results, and that goes in line with the whole, quote unquote newbie gains. It's like when you're doing something, for the first time and you're eliciting some kind of new stimulus, your body's going to adapt. So you're going to get some kind of progress. Like, it doesn't really matter what you do. So I think once again, it's right into youth train, and I was just like on the whole new aspect. So really it was more of like single muscle group. That's kind of how I operated. Then I started to get into more conditioning style. So typical week, one muscle group per day. Then I do some type of core and conditioning at the end. So training wise, frequency, minimum 5 to 6 times per week. I would typically take one full day off, whether I needed it or not.
Yeah.
You know, body's gotten a little more acclimated to physical activity. So now I may take it off, I may not. So that's changed a bit. But that's kind of how I started out. And I think for anybody starting out with just weightlifting in general, that would just be, I would start off with any free resource that you can find, like from reputable sources, not just if you see.
That's key.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of junk out there.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a Brazilian internet one time.
Right. Yeah, you see the 6-minute ab set and could just scroll right past. Like, it doesn't happen like that. And so, but you know, people are just constantly trying to reinvent the wheel, and I'm sorry, but it's just, there's only so many ways you can like recreate exercises. And so then you start manipulating things like tempo and, you know, rep scheme, things like that. So you can get more technical with it, but start with the basics. The biggest thing is just show up. Like that's really the main thing beyond anything. The two most, I guess, formative ingredients that I tell people are patience and consistency. If you don't have those, you're not going to stick with it. And so those are two of the hardest disciplines to acquire, but they are also the most impactful once you do have them and you hold on to them. So show up, patient, consistent. Find a split that works for your lifestyle. That's also another thing too. Don't try and force a regimen that doesn't make sense for you. So if you know that you're, let's say, not good early morning, don't go to the gym at 5 a.m. You're not going to get the results that you want, or you'd be crabby and it's going to ruin your day. Yeah. You set your day off on the wrong note. So find what's optimal for you. Just start, show up, and keep showing up.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's
awesome.
So were you a rice and chicken guy? Like, were you measuring?
White rice and chicken.
White rice and chicken. And then I'm going to have white rice and chicken. And then I'm thinking for dinner,
after my protein shake.
Exactly. I'm going to have white rice and chicken.
Have some more.
You know, to a certain extent, like I did mention, I did somewhat of a bro method with my training, slightly with the nutrition regimen as well. Not super extreme though, because once again, from YouTube, I found a couple figures. One of his name's Matt Ogus, and he's been on YouTube for probably like 15 years, something like that. But he adopted flexible dieting, and he was doing bodybuilding prep as well. So I kind of just like mirrored off of what he was doing, and it worked. Like, I mean, I saw him eating ice cream and eating Chipotle.
No kidding.
Like, while he was prepping, and he was absolutely shredded. Like,
Wow.
it was just,
Wow.
Yeah. And so he stepped on a natural bodybuilding stage as well. And that's what I think resonated with me even more, is because you start to realize just how much fake is out there. And so to see him, you know, get tested, and it's like, he literally documented his entire prep. I just thought it was really cool, and that really resonated with me early on. So to see the flexible dieting, tracking macros, that also, you know, I guess was a segue into me learning how to track macros and see what worked for my body. It was just experimentation. Yeah. So I've never been eat 6 to 20 times a day. That's just not really that's not my style, and I just don't like doing dishes. So like that was the main thing for me, but it just wasn't practical to do that. And so I would change up my food sources. I would add condiments onto my like food source if I wanted. Like,
I hear that's a
flavor.
big deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just like condiments are your best friend, right?
Yeah. It keeps it simple. And like, you know, when I say I didn't eat chicken and rice all the time, I didn't change it up so much though that I was eating something different every single day, because that's just not realistic. Like, and so I would eat relatively the same stuff, but not to the point where I just like despised eating, you know? And that's what I feel a lot of bodybuilding has kind of conformed into. It's just, food is literally just they treat it as that's just rice, just chicken, but they don't enjoy it at all, is the thing. So they just know that it's gonna help you, even though sanity wise you pretty much lost it all. So for me, I held on to the sanity, and just kept it flexible, tracked my macros, and I learned a lot through that process.
Great. Cool. Mm-hmm. Great. So then what made you think about that longer distance?
So that wasn't until recently. Last year, the pandemic, which was formative for all of us, basically, it was a very life-changing, just perspective-changing instance, because so I've been in the fitness space now for going on 12 years, and it's a long time, and it's very easy for fitness to get dull if you don't swap.
Oh, totally, yeah. That's why we do triathlons, because it's 3 sports.
Exactly.
And we just kind of rotate back and forth.
Exactly. And you can always improve on that. And that's what I've noticed with, and not that you can't always improve in strength training, but I feel like it had become so second nature, and I was so comfortable with it. I felt like I could literally go through the motions, and I absolutely hate that. Like, I don't like anything to where I can just feel like I could go on autopilot. And so it got to the point where I was in the gym, and I would go through my phases, put on a little bit of size, no extreme bulks or anything, put on strength, lean down for a show, wash, rinse, repeat. And so it just got to that same kind of cycle. And once again, it's really just the comfort aspect. That's the one thing that I try to avoid at all costs when it comes, especially with fitness. That's supposed to be challenging. Like fitness is supposed to challenge you so that you can elicit a new stimulus, like that's and grow successively. And so when it got to the point that I just felt like it got kind of easy, I wasn't really pushing myself mentally either. Like I didn't feel like
that's
anything.
critical too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like if you don't feel that drive, that intrinsic drive, I mean, you have to step back and ask yourself, it's like, what's the point of even doing this? And so I didn't really have that fire anymore. And this is the main reason why I picked up endurance is running is the one discipline that I always intentionally avoided because I knew like literally because it always made me feel bad. Like I felt like I've never felt so out of shape until I run. And then, and I'm talking like just a mile and a half, 2 miles max. I didn't go above 2 miles. Like, so that was beyond my limitations at the point, or at that point. And so, the stuff that humbles me, I kind of went back to that and once again, like, with, quarantine, got a lot of time to think and just reevaluate stuff. So it was a lot of time with myself. And once again, finding people on YouTube. There's one figure named Nick Bear. He's a triathlete and he came from a bodybuilding background. So it all kind of, it's crazy how it comes full circle, but kind of like with Matt Ogus and bodybuilding, Nick Bear, he came from a bodybuilding background and he started going into endurance training. It just really aligned well with me wanting to step outside of my comfort zone and do something that I knew was going to make me uncomfortable. I knew I was going to really despise it at certain times and feel bad and I was going to hurt and things like that. But it was just the humbling aspect. Like I wanted something that humbled me so that I knew it makes it known how far you can actually push yourself when you push to that point. So that's what I wanted. And that's why I gravitated towards running. It was not a quick process by any means, but very, very eye-opening, very rewarding process for sure.
Great. So how did your training change up? I mean, and you're still doing the strength work, obviously. So how did you manipulate your training schedule to handle the distance running?
Definitely. Yeah, that was cool too, because that process in itself, it made me think a bit more. I couldn't just go into the gym and just train whatever I wanted. It's like I had to factor in the running and the recovery and things like that and how much time I needed for both of those. So the main change I would say is just lower body training. Not that it was non-existent, but I definitely decreased the amounts that I targeted legs, just because there's no way, like, I mean, if you're trying to hammer the legs with strength training and run 10 miles or 10-mile run the next day or whatever, it's just, you're going to be feeling it is a thing. And so, and it's going to be detrimental in the long term. So that was one of the main things. I wasn't training for strength really anymore. And I still wanted to move weights because I know the importance of that, keeping your joints strong, things like that. And I actually think, I know there's countless approaches to endurance training, but I actually think keeping the weight training consistent, usually about 4 times a week consistently, helped me with my marathon. Like it absolutely helped me to power up those hills and things like that. And
that's really important because I think that's the biggest deficit on some of endurance folks is that's the last thing that they do.
Oh, they don't want to do strength training at all. Right. And trying to get my athletes to do strength training is the hardest thing. It's like, why? Yeah.
Which is interesting because Copernicus has to figure out how to not to do it, right? So it's sort of like, don't pick it up, yes. Don't squat, 450. No, I don't need to go 450.
So I had to scale down the weights a bit, which was totally fine. I mean, I put my ego at the door, so it didn't really matter. I don't have anything to prove to anyone, so that wasn't really an issue. It was just making the shift in general and just changing up the training from what I was so accustomed to. Going from 6 days per week weight training. It's like, okay, well, you can really only do 4. You have to allocate the energy for your runs. Know that your quality needs to be there because that's the task at hand. It's not the strength training, but I will say the weights absolutely played a huge role. One thing with the weight training, doing unilateral work, so training individual limbs, I emphasize that a lot more.
Really?
Yeah. Just because with legs, since I was scaling down the weight, I was like, okay, I can, start working with doing more unilateral work, but I knew how imperative balance and coordination was going to be. So that was my bread and butter. Like that's what I really enjoyed and emphasized. So even though the weights was lower, like my legs still felt like they got amazing workouts when I would do that.
So help me understand what unilateral work would mean. Yeah. So what would that look like?
For sure. And so unilateral can apply to both upper body or lower body. So it's just training a single limb one at a time. So giving and what's good about that is, and you can do, there's several ways to go about unilateral. You can do ipsilateral, which is same side training, or you could do contralateral, like, however you want to do that. So there's several ways to go about it depending on the exercise. But what I liked about that is it comes down to the mental aspect, the focus. You can put your full focus into that one limb is the thing, because even if you're using dumbbells, when you train, let's bicep curls or whatever, bench press, for example, your dominant side can still take over a bit more. You can't really connect as well as if you were to just isolate one side at a time. So that's what I love about it. You notice how much weaker one side is, and that's another thing that people intentionally avoid.
Oh, totally.
So, yeah. They're like, oh, I don't like how this feels. I'll stick with my right side. I'm strong. But they don't realize how much more in terms of gains that they're going to make long term by just isolating each limb individually. So that's one big shift that I made with my training. And once again, with the weights decreasing, tempo stuff. So I would really focus on eccentrics, just loading. But just quality reps, full range of motion. And that all helped. So yeah, that was the main change, just going down in weights a bit.
Did you switch? Did you switch to more reps and lower weights, more of an endurance type? That's what we kind of look as an endurance type training, is that you go for more reps, lower weights instead of higher weights with lower reps. Or did you keep it the same? You just did less days?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because I think that's the main viewpoint that people tend to have, and it's actually very similar in bodybuilding, is people think they just have to start going crazy on rep count, but you still want to train for strength. Like, you still need to be strong, because as you guys know, triathletes, it's power is such a huge component is the thing, and you can only get that. You can't really get that by doing 20 plus reps of certain exercises. So unless you're focusing on speed, but even then, you still want that max output, like tapping into that anaerobic threshold. So I definitely kept strength work in there. So, I was still working in, like, the lowest I would probably go is probably about 6, like 4 to 6. It depends on the movement. So I didn't go crazy on like doing 20 plus deadlifts in a row or things like that. So just, so my bigger compound movements, I would still absolutely train for strength.
Good.
And just once again, focus on tempo, keeping that there. But I think to have the most well-rounded, comprehensive program, you need a blend of both. You need the strength work, you need the hypertrophy work, the unilateral training as mentioned, and you should be pretty set to go.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is that's what the endurance athlete thinks they need to do, is more reps, lighter weights, and they get in there and they do that and they don't get the results that they're looking for. And it's not that way. It's like, no, shorter reps, higher weights. Let's go to 80% max. Let's do some stuff that you're going to build some strength. Exactly. That's what we keep looking for.
Yeah, and you're going to use that. When you're doing hill climbing and other things, that's when you you bring
exactly.
Those. So here you are. You've decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be out of my comfort zone. You had a preconceived notion of sort of. I'm assuming you, like you said, you probably looked up a training plan online. You were trying to look at what you're doing. So you're 3 to 4 weeks into this thing. What is it that surprised you about it? What is it that was like, okay, I need to do something? Was there a moment when you were like, oh, this is going to be either harder or less difficult? Because I know when we met, you were going for a half, and that seemed to be going pretty well.
Right. Yeah.
So give us a little thought on that, sort of how you started leaning into it.
For sure.
What that surprise was? There a surprise?
Yeah, definitely. I think there were a few surprises, but there's also a lot that I anticipated that definitely hit me right in the face in terms of how difficult it was going to be. But yeah, just as you mentioned, I initially wanted to do just a half marathon, and it's interesting. Like, when you just stick with something and you're consistent, you keep showing up, like, it'll take time. For me, I'd probably say the first month and a half, I felt like I was making like jack worth of progress. Like, it just did not. I really felt like I was not. I felt like my times weren't getting faster, and I felt like my heart was about to come out of my chest. Like, everything felt tough. Like, everything felt difficult. The first 2 to 3 weeks, especially. And, I put it out there in the public that I was going to do this as a thing. And so it's...
so you had accountability, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You intentionally did that.
Yeah, when you put that out there, it's like it puts pressure on yourself to inspire and stick with what you said you were going to do. And so I had that just lingering, so that didn't help. That didn't help at all. I was like, Fergus, what did you sign yourself up for? So, but yeah, initially I was going to do just a half marathon. First 2 weeks or so, it was just... that was the most humbling aspect. It's my joints were hurting. Everything was just hurting. Like everything was hurting. I felt like I never felt so like low in terms of fitness level than that point in the beginning of the journey. I kept showing up. 3 weeks in, I was like, okay, we're starting to be more upright when we run. So you start taking note of like these little things.
Yeah, exactly.
And posture.
Yeah, exactly. Posture and stride and things like cadence, and you start getting more, detailed with it. You're like, oh, and so I started celebrating like the little wins that I would have. And I think that's very critical. Don't dwell on that. So don't gloat, but at the same time, don't just think, oh, sweet, like I improved my cadence by 2 steps per minute. Like, don't just like, and don't throw a parade for it. But at the same time, like, do acknowledge that, because that's going to keep you driven. Like, as mentioned, no coach, no team. So if you're your only accountability and your inspiration or your motivator, celebrate those little wins.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's what helped me a lot in the beginning. But I would say, yeah, definitely the hurt, full body hurt. Like, full body hurt is probably the best way to describe it, especially for the first month. I would say that was the biggest thing.
But you said a really important thing, and I just want to emphasize that, which is, you spent 4 weeks, 5 weeks, like you said, where you just didn't think things were moving, right?
It was also middle of the summer too.
Brutal.
Not middle of the summer, it was tail end of the summer.
Yeah.
It was super humid. It was very warm. So that didn't help. I don't recommend starting your running journey in the summer, but it will make you a hell of a lot tougher once you get to race day in the fall.
And I think that's a really important thing to say, that it's not like you're going to turn around in a week and all of a sudden like, whoa, look at me, I'm running, an 8 pace, and I also want to emphasize the fact, just a half marathon is still a half marathon. In terms of scale for you, because of your fitness level, you were able to adapt and adopt pretty quickly. So a half marathon suddenly didn't feel like you were pushing yourself, right?
And I think it was another thing too, people place a lot of emphasis on the label aspect, like, oh my God, a half marathon. It immediately becomes daunting when you put that kind of note on it, that kind of tone on it. I mean, not saying you're counting yourself out from the get-go, but you kind of are. Is that if you let that label define your performance, well, I mean, you're going to be SOL pretty early. And so don't think so much about, oh my God, it's a half marathon, it's a 13.1. Just think about how you're going to perform. That's really the only thing that you can control. Like it could rain, it could be stormy, it could be winter, whatever. So any variables can be there, but you can always control how you perform and how you prepare for something. And so that's just kind of been my mindset for, as long as I can remember. It's like you can always control the preparation process. So even though something may be seemingly, insurmountable in the beginning, just, take a step back, look at it for what it is. Be calculated in your approach to get there, and I mean, you'll make it. Like that's just So initially I did want to do a half marathon, but once I got the training in, I was 1 month in, 2 months in. 2 months in, I was like, okay, I feel like 50% of a runner. Like I feel like I'm kind of a runner at this point.
Did you tell people that too? Like,
I was like,
what are you? I'm a runner.
I'm a runner.
I'm a runner, kind of. So, kind of. So it's still bodybuilder, but
lowercase.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So we were still working to graduate to another level with that. But I actually started to feel like, running kind of might be my jam, at some point. Maybe not then and there, maybe a little bit later on down the road. But at that point, started to gain more confidence. That was the biggest thing is, I would lace up my shoes and I'd be like, I'm ready to do this, versus just like, oh God, I got to go do this. Like, it was just mindset shift. It was a lot of perspective shift, and just, once again, very eye opening. And so once I got to the point, probably 2.5 months in, where I ran a half marathon on my own in my training, I was like, well, Copernicus, like, you have to go do the full. Like, you have to go do the full now.
You've gone this far. Let's take it all the way.
Exactly. Because the whole point of, this endeavor in general was to do something that I never thought I could do, and that I thought was beyond my, capability and outside of my comfort zone. I was like, well, you already like knocked that item off the list. So what's the point in doing? I mean, it would have still been an achievement, like absolutely. Cause once again, it's not just a marathon or a half marathon, but the half marathon still 13.1.
But in your fitness capability, it was becoming easy.
Exactly.
Not easy, but
easier.
It became easier to do that.
Right. Yeah. So once I got the, the half marathon in, I think I did it in like an hour 50 or something. Like, so, I mean, it was, it wasn't fast, but it was doable. And so I was like, oh, well, I mean, and then I just thought about it more. I was like, you know what? Let's just take it up a notch or double it. So let's just double it. And so, yeah, we decided probably about 2 months out, 2 to 2.5 months out from race day, with the one that I was thinking about, to just go ahead and do the full marathon.
Cool.
Yeah. Nice. So which one?
So it was the Seven Bridges Marathon. It was supposed to be in Chattanooga. Due to COVID restrictions, they had to change the venue to Crandall, Georgia. So it was at a place called Cohutta Springs Resort. Once again, the name of it was Seven Bridges Marathon. And honestly, I think the alternative venue might have even been better as a thing, just because it was so scenic, relatively flat. That's one thing that helped me in my training.
That helps tremendously.
Well,
flat marathon.
That helped tremendously. So there was a few hills, but one thing I didn't mention within my training that for people starting out that want to either tackle, PR, 5K, half marathon, whatever it is, any endurance event like that, absolutely should train hills beforehand. Like that was one thing that helped me so much, because when you if you can truck up a hill and know how to control your cadence and then also control it down the hill, once you get to flat ground, you're just like, oh, well, this just feels like
then you're cruising
right here.
Once you control your heart rate and power up that.
Exactly. Yeah, you start to find your stride is the thing. And so, training hills, I would train Nashville natives. You're familiar with Percy Warner, and so that is just nonstop, nonstop hills. There's all turns, twists, everything, and so very humbling when I would do that within my training. But once I did some of my longer runs on those hills, like the 13, 14 milers, I think my longest one was maybe 16. Through Percy Warner, I was like, well, I can take on anything at this point. So, training hills helped tremendously. I don't recommend doing that every single time, but absolutely implement that into your training.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
So as you were bodybuilding, you were eating chicken, rice, and it sounds like ice cream too.
Yes.
So
yes,
which apparently I need to go bodybuild. Yeah. I was already getting ready for bodybuilding. I just didn't know it.
Didn't know it.
How did your food change? How did your hydration change? You probably paid a lot more attention to hydration than you did before. Talk us through on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nutrition is very critical. Fueling yourself enough, I think beyond any other detailed aspect, you have to get enough food in. Like that is just, because if you're going to, once again, like put in that much time, that much effort, burn that many calories through, especially endurance activities, you have to refuel. Like, I mean, that's the only way to sustain and actually keep going to get to your end goal. And so that was one thing. Yeah, hydration absolutely played a huge role, and I placed a huge emphasis on that. Just staying hydrated literally throughout the entire day, like no matter what, especially before, like the window before and after my my run or whatever it was, I would definitely make sure to hydrate. I incorporated a few supplements like carb blends and things like that, electrolyte blends. Didn't really do that until the distance kind of warranted that. So, in the first month, I just needed to get fit. Like it didn't really matter at that point, but hydration was the main focus for that. Wholesome food wise, carbs were my best friend. Like they always have been, but it's just even more so. Definitely ingested a fair amount of carbs. Protein was nothing crazy. Because my body's gotten acclimated to it, I always get close to about a gram per pound of body weight. And so I weigh about 170. Now, I did not weigh that when I ran my marathon. I definitely lost some weight.
So what was your weight before? Yeah, what was your weight before?
So my weight before the marathon, or at the very start of my prep, was probably about 172, 173. And I'd say I lost 7 or 8 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was it looked like I could have stepped on stage. So, I mean, like it really looked like that. So I was like, well, if the marathon flops, I can just find a competition. But so definitely got super lean, but it was the most fit I had ever been. And that was the biggest difference. Like I actually had legitimate fitness versus just looking like it. And so that was the main or really no changes. It's just I had to up the volume of food that I ate, and also hydration. Really focusing on that, making sure I got that in. But carbs, I'd probably say my calorie intake was no less than 3,500 per day. Like I just ballpark. I did not track. That was another thing too. If you want to get a bit more specific, know exactly what's going on in your body, I mean, yes, go ahead and track. It's a good learning process, but because I had done that through my bodybuilding preps, I already kind of knew how my body would respond anyway. And yeah, once we upped the mileage, I was like, okay, well, I probably just need to eat a bit more. Nothing crazy, but incremental changes. No night and day shifts with nutrition. I think that's just a good general rule of thumb.
Yeah, and I think you're so in tune with your body at that point. Anyway, right. You knew what your needs were. You knew what your nutrition was. So when you're hungry, you eat.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And you just know what foods to have.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so you're eating great. You're doing great. Workouts are going great.
Yes.
You got 7 bridges staring at you.
Yes.
You show up on race day.
Yes.
Okay, walk us through that.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went well. It went well. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and get that out of the way. It did go. It went well. I had a goal of getting the marathon done in under 4 hours. That was just. I knew it was going to be a challenge, and I knew what paces I had to hit. So, and I just had to maintain there. So, you know, pace wise, you had to shoot for like an 840, 845, like somewhere around there, but ensure that you sustain that over the entire distance. I was like, okay, it's gonna be a challenge. Like I knew I could do that for half, no problem. But when you tack on 13.1 more miles, you're like, okay. And everybody kept talking about the wall that comes up. The
infamous wall at 21 or 22.
The infamous wall. And I'm not saying that wall didn't hit, but okay, well, yeah, showing up to race day, I had the nerves. I usually don't get nervous about stuff like that. And it's weird. I think it's just because it was something I had never done before. And once again, that pressure you put out there for not that the public eye matters all that much, but it's like, all right, you said you're going to do this. You put that goal out for yourself. So I wanted to hold myself accountable to that standard that I set for myself. So I definitely had some nerves leading into it. It's kind of crazy. It's like my stomach is all out of sorts and I was losing sleep. I was very restless. Like, and I just kept thinking, I was like actually nervous, and I couldn't really recall the last time that I had felt like that. Probably before my first bodybuilding competition, maybe. But after that, never one since then. I was like, no, cool as a cucumber. But this one, it was so different. But what's very strange is the morning of when I woke up, it's like all nerves just like dissipated because it was really weird because it was just the build up. But once I got there, I was like, Copernicus, you're here. Like, I mean, you've trained for it. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
You know, you're as ready as you're going to be. And so once I just kind of took the pressure off myself, it's like, just go run your race. Like, that's all that matters. I mean, just go run your race. You've done the prep. You know what you need to do, and just go execute. And so we get to the race line. It's really freaking cold. It's probably like 40 degrees outside, and well, Kenny knows this, but like, you know, typically ran shirtless is a thing. And
so one thing Copernicus is allergic to is shirts.
Shirts,
exactly. To shirts. And so allergic to that.
By the way, he's wearing one on this podcast.
Yeah. We didn't want to make things weird. So we did wear a shirt, and through Kenny's guidance, he's like, hey, you probably want to have a shirt that you can just toss. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to rock that. It was still a short sleeve, so I was still freezing. So I was still freezing, but I was like, okay, I'll wear this for the beginning. So we get to the starting line. It wasn't a big race, and that's why it was allowed to happen, given the restrictions and everything. So we were able to start on time. Things right at 7 a.m. Once again, nerves are gone. I had that good energy, that good nerve, a good amount of nerves going on, just ready to get started. And so once I got started, got in the groove, I saw the pacers, you know, the different blocks and everything. I was like, okay, this is a cool little experience. And some people just like shot right out of the gate and booked it in the beginning. And I was like, okay, like I'll be.
That's going to come back to haunt them.
I was like, I'll be very intrigued to see you hold that pace. But some you could tell. I was like, and they had talked before. They're like, yeah, we run 3-hour marathon and things like that. So I was like, I knew some of them, but the vast majority, I'm like, I'll be very surprised if you guys maintain that. So I just stayed in my zone, knew my game plan, and stuck with it. So I was chilling at, you know, probably 8:15 pace, something like that. I wanted to give myself a little cushion, but to where I didn't feel uncomfortable, like super uncomfortable in the beginning. So yeah, we held that. And then just as the race, you know, went along, started passing by those people that booked by me in the beginning, and slowly but surely just kept ticking away. And yeah, as you guys know, you kind of just start distancing yourself from everybody else and kind of find yourself on your own. And so once we got to about mile, it really didn't feel like work until like mile 19, mile 20. But at the same time, it didn't feel like a wall either. It just felt like my legs were working. So so that was really the main thing. And it started to warm up a bit. So naturally tossed away shirt, got tossed away. So,
did it last that long? I mean,
it actually lasted for about 6 miles.
Oh, okay, that's about right.
Which,
okay, that's pretty
for
good.
shirts go. That's good.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So first 6 miles, it warmed up to a brisk 48 degrees. So no, I was feeling good. I felt really good. I only had to stop once, which I'm super grateful for, just to use the portage on one time, in and out, probably like 60 seconds. So it was because I knew every second counted. And so we got back on the road. The only times that I walked per se were by a couple of the aid stations, just so I didn't just splash the gator all over my face. I actually got some in my mouth. So fuel wise, some people talk about it, some people don't. I had a couple goos on me. They had those at the aid stations as well, and that's just a carb blend, a very quick, easy source to take in that you can take on the go, and so that helps a lot, especially for endurance activities. So I had 2 of those over the course of the race, but because I was fueling with, the little cups of Gatorade, I didn't really need any more than that, because I had already prepared for that and in my training prior to that. So we were trucking along. Lost the shirt, kept going, and it stopped one time. But the race itself was, I don't know, I guess it was everything I wanted for it and more, because it turned out to be an absolutely gorgeous day. You just kind of like get lost in it. You just get lost in the activity. And I was like, I'm just running. I don't feel like I'm working. Like, I feel like I'm just running. And for me, that was such a pivotal breakthrough, knowing my starting point and how I just absolutely despised running. Like, it was literally the one fitness activity that I always avoided. And to be in that state, not like euphoria, but it almost felt like that. It just felt like a zen-like state.
You got the runner's high.
I was literally just
pretty much running. That's what it is. That's that state of zen that you're just enjoying. You're just moving.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just moving.
That's perfect. Like, that's a perfect way to put it. I felt like I was just moving at that point, and that was when that wall was supposed to hit. That's when I felt like I was just moving, and it was such a good feeling. It was so great. And I was like, hey, the finish line will be there before you know it, but just relish in this experience. Like, just enjoy it. And
nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do, and I'm one of them, by the way. I don't do that, right? I look at my watch, I look at my heart rate, I look at the pace I want to be or the pace I should be. And it's difficult. The one thing that I'm hearing like throughout this whole thing is just discipline, right? That you're very good at discipline. Like you said, you knew 4 or 5 weeks into it that it will come, the change will come. You knew at race day to just do your pace. And you knew, because that one thing alone, and I'm guilty of it. You'd be the one passing me. I go out like a rocket, right? And then crap out and hope for the last 6 miles I just sort of, survive it rather than kind of pace it out. And I know that. Intelligently, I know that. I just emotionally, I have a bib on. A bib number's.
Oh yeah.
Once you put a bib number on, it's a different.
Right
there. It's a different. Like, you look around.
That gets you fired up.
So it's one thing about discipline. It seems like you stayed within that discipline, and that's something that bodybuilding taught you was you have to go through that process.
For sure.
Would that be a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. No matter what the endeavor is, and that's whether it's physical or professional or whatever you're trying to do. I think discipline is. It has to be a staple in there, because when it comes time to execute, you can't let all these external variables rattle what you prepared so diligently for. Like, that's, if you did a certain process leading up to the event itself, why would you let the things that on that day itself, why would you let any of that manipulate how you're going to perform?
That's a really good point.
And so, I definitely learned that through bodybuilding for sure, but just staying on track, knowing what your plan is and just execute on that. It doesn't matter what Joe, Jill do. It doesn't matter what they're doing is the thing. But the bib, it did. I felt like I had kind of like my badge. This was a status thing. I was here.
You're a runner now.
I'm a runner. Race hadn't started, but I had my bib.
You got it. Yeah.
So that would definitely be the resounding theme. I would say just discipline above everything. Know what you did to prepare to get to that point, and just follow through with it.
Yeah, and also be comfortable with whatever your speed or whatever your pace is going to be, right? Like you said, you're not competing with a bunch of people. What you're doing is you're competing against that goal that you set yourself. Did you, so you ended up getting sub 4,
I did. I got, I think it was 351, 19, I think.
Yeah, the 19 counts, by the way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
351.
That was the official chip time.
Official chip time.
Official chip time. So.
And then you have Garmin time, too. Did you have the Garmin watch?
You know, Garmin said I ran like 26.5 miles, so I don't know. I was like,
Garmin, that's pretty good.
Come on, Garmin. So, that was the official time. We hit our goal, and it's had a little bit of not a scary instance like the last mile, but I knew the finish line was there. I could see it at the top of the hill. I was like, you know what? I'm full send. I'm just going to book it this last one. And so I was actually cruising at sub 8, like on the last mile.
Nice.
And so I was probably about 7:35, like something like that. I don't know where that came from. And I was fine.
It's that finish line.
It
does it every time.
That's it. I saw it. I was like, you know,
old horse to the barn.
That's right. Yeah. And so I saw the time. I was like, I know I'm going to get there, even if I stick with my just race pace. But you know what? Let's make a statement just to myself. And we were going along, but the thing is, the finish line's at the top of a hill, and so which is So when I started the ascent, like I was at the bottom of the hill, I started the ascent. I felt both of my hamstrings just like immediately lock up. Is the thing. I was like,
not now,
right? And so I'd probably say I wasn't even a quarter mile away. It was probably maybe less than that. But once I felt that, I was like, all right, Copernicus, you can either just like totally trash your hamstring and try and set some like unspoken PR for yourself, or just get there like within a reasonable amount. I still finished at about like an 8-minute per mile pace, but it wasn't going to be my 7:30 or whatever I wanted. And so once I felt that, I was like, no, just get in there. Don't run in there. Don't hobble it to the finish line.
Yeah.
And so so we got there. So overall we stuck with our paces. Average, probably about like an 8:30-ish.
Nice.
You know? But consistently, I think my slowest mile, I don't think I even stemmed into the 9-minute pace, which I was ecstatic to see
fantastic.
that.
Yeah, no,
I was
that's really great.
because it just showed like how much consistency plays into that. And if you can sustain that over that distance, I couldn't be more proud of that, because I knew that was my plan going into it, and I just stuck with it.
Having that focus and keeping that plan is great, because I work with athletes where you know they're training at one level, and then they decide, okay, what's your race goal? And they go, well, I'm going to go this fast.
Right.
And you go, were you training that way? And they're like, well, no, but I'm just going to, that's how my race is going to go. And you're like, that doesn't really happen that way. That's those people that take off like crazy, and then you end up passing them later on.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I think on the other side of that coin too is you got to know if something's going wrong, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the good news is you had a great race. It was a beautiful day. There's times when in your head, I know I'm capable. I've trained for this, and then all of a sudden it's like you said, hammy's getting tight, or
the body's talking to you.
So
take a listen
sometimes
to it.
you have to give what the race gives you. I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah, the willingness to adapt, because anything can happen, anything can change, and so I've always been so big on just control what you can. Yeah, realize that literally anything that you plan for could be totally thrown out the window the day that you arrive at the race. But thankfully, blessed with the good weather, and body was feeling good and everything. Good. Got terrible sleep. I think it was just because I was nervous. Once again, the nerves. So the night before, sleep wasn't great, but it was like I'm just so hopped up on energy and ready to do this thing. So I was feeling in very good spirits, just really ready to go after it. And seeing people over the course of the race, some pulling their hamstring, some rolling an ankle, and it starts to get in your head a little bit. But
it does. Right?
It does get in your head. But I was like, hey, just stay focused, put your head down, and then just keep on trucking. So that's it is cliche, but literally you just run your own race. Like it doesn't matter how many people are there. It's 100 or 10,000. Like just run your race. Like stay in your lane.
Single focus. Just focus on that and just enjoy it.
That's it.
So how big of a burger did you have at the end of this thing?
What was your calorie count after?
I indulged in just like this Mexican food feast.
Nice.
So we got the chips, the queso, salsa, fajitas. We went to town. It was great. And then awesome. I passed out at probably like 8 p.m. Honestly, my body was, the problem was, that's not a problem, but so the race was in Crandall, Georgia. I had to drive myself back that same day. So there was no time.
There's some cramping happened when you get out of the car after that.
I stopped several times to get out of my car, much more than on the way down. And I was like, it is what it is. But I think it made me that much more resilient and that much tougher. So, so on the way back, but it was an early night for me, probably about 8 p.m. This kid was out and then slept in quite nicely the next day.
Yeah, I went down. And then went for a run.
Yeah.
So as a So as a person that had one discipline, right? You were, like you said, you were kind of losing your why. It sounds like, right? You were just sort of doing the motions to do the motions, and then you decided, okay, I needed a challenge. For those people that are kind of currently in sort of that rut, it could be running, it could be whatever. What are those things that you think helped you sort of transition from that? Was it obviously discipline was one of them. Was it just picking something that you knew was outside of your comfort zone? Help us. If somebody wanted to do that, what would you be your recommendation?
Definitely. And I really like that question because I feel like a lot of people can really relate to that when you find yourself in that state of just like, why am I even doing it? Like one is just determining your why. Like so take some time to evaluate that and find your purpose. Like what's the point of even pursuing something? But if you're kind of in a rut and a lull, it's find something that's going to make you feel alive. So, even if that means humbling and, even pain, like feeling pain or a hurt that you haven't felt, that's a sign that you're alive, that you're doing something that you're not accustomed to. And I think that in itself is it's invigorating. Like it breathes life into you. It shows that you can do this. It may suck in the beginning, but you can push through it. And I think just finding something to where you can level up, knowing that you can always do something more. That's just, that thought in itself always drives me. And that acts as my catalyst to just get up off my butt and find something different because, we as humans are capable of amazing things. Like we just don't typically push ourselves. Like that's just because it's not comfortable or it's not easy. And it's like, we weren't put on this earth to do easy. Like that's not really, that's not how generation upon generation has, sustained. And so when it comes to like physical endeavors, it's just know that you're always capable of more. And I think I got to that point where I knew I could do something more. I could be pushing myself, but I wasn't. And that thought like haunted me. And so I didn't want that feeling anymore. And it's that drive. It's that intrinsic drive. And so find something that's going to motivate you in that regard, but also train for a bigger purpose. So, I don't have like kids or anything, but anybody you have family, like train for your kids. Like, that's just, they're your reason. Like, that or your, spouse or whoever it is. Just know that, do this for them, and it's just to have them push you and things like that, just whatever can like get you to just get started. Some bigger fulfilling meaning that's going to propel you forward.
And what's fascinating about this whole thing to me too is you had a choice as a child, right? Mm-hmm. I can't do a pull-up, right?
Right.
So so we started this. You could have said, I'm just not an athlete, right? That's just not who I am. Yes. Oh, I can't do that. My brother, he's going to be the athlete, but you chose to say, hey, I'm not going to be sedentary. That's not who I want to be. Fast forward, a couple decades later, and here you are, finishing a marathon, hands in the air and Mexican food in your mouth and all that. That's an amazing kind of thing, and that can happen. You happen to do it as a child, but you can be in your mid 30s and say, I'm not an quote unquote athlete. One of the things we're trying to do on this podcast is define that an athlete isn't. You happen to be gifted with discipline and you worked at it and your body responded well. Right. An athlete doesn't have to be a marathon runner. An athlete can be just somebody that decided that, today I'm not going to sit on the couch. Yeah, right.
Exactly. That you put that perfectly. It was just making that conscious decision to just do something more and to become better. Like that's what fueled me. It started, and it was my start, and it's what continues to fuel me day in and day out. And it's just like you said, that switch can happen no matter what age you are. It doesn't matter. If you're fortunate enough to figure it out as a kid, cool. If you have the sports background, things like that. But yeah, absolutely. Middle age, it doesn't matter. It's never too late to make that switch and to understand that you can push yourself, just to get up off the couch, push yourself to a level of discomfort that you're going to grow from. Like that's one big thing. A lot of people don't see that the other side of it. It's like, there's a reason why we do this stuff. It's not, we just love to hurt. No, it's like we realize there's growth in multiple regards that comes from it, and the reward that you gain from it. If you can just push yourself hard enough and push yourself long enough to get to that point, you'll realize how rewarding that is.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset of being an athlete that we talk about this all the time about. People don't feel they're an athlete unless they're getting paid or they're professional. Those are athletes. No. Everybody's an athlete once you're moving. All you have to do is move, and it could be any sport. It doesn't have to be marathon, doesn't have to be strength training. It could be, golf. It could be hockey. It could be anything that's out there. Yeah, well, that's a completely different subject.
I don't golf, so that's okay.
I don't either. But that's what we're looking at. It's that mindset and having that ability, as you talked about earlier, is just show up.
Yeah,
just show up and do it. That little bit of discipline, don't make it too huge, but you do that, and it just transfers to everywhere else in your life. That's
exactly
what we're
right.
at.
Yeah. The discipline, attained through fitness. I can't even begin to explain how much it's impacted, professional development, just how I interact with people and things like that, just staying on track, keeping yourself accountable. That accountability goes so far. And yes, I learned a lot of that through fitness and just becoming an athlete over the years, which I'm proud to say, like, definitely it's been very, very life-changing for me.
So with that, nice transition, right? Yeah. So actions over words is something you decided to start as a lifestyle brand.
Right.
And it sounds like there's a theme going there, right? It's actions over words. So your actions actually mean something. Talk to us a little bit about that and why you decided to start that.
For sure. So 2020 was probably like a really big year for it in terms of rebranding and re-identifying itself. But the company itself actually started back in 2016. I was working full time and, for Metro Parks here in Nashville, fitness coordinator. So, just whatever. I knew that wasn't going to be my life path. Like, that's not something that I wanted to do. I felt like I was 40 and I was only like 20 is the thing with the job tasks that I had to do, doing payroll and, administrative stuff.
Adulting. We call that adulting.
Yes, adulting. I felt way too adulting like early on.
Sorry, yeah.
But it's not that I didn't like the task. I just, for some reason, it just didn't align with what I wanted to do, like what I wanted to do with my life. And it's not that it was always unfulfilling and it was like the worst job ever. No, the job itself, the people were great, have a lot of positive things and a lot of great connections that I formed from it. But the reason why I started Actions Over Words is because I knew I wanted to do something else. Like, for some reason, whenever I would see people perform actions beyond themselves, like without any promise of reward or acknowledgement or anything, they just did it to do it.
Yeah. That
always stuck with me. And I just wanted to put a name on it and, come up with a brand. And then once I discovered how many people actually say actions over words, whether they realize it or not, I was like, I have to make something out of this.
Yeah.
So it was never intended to be a fitness brand. Like, otherwise I would have just called it Copernicus Johnson Fitness, just like every other fitness influencer that does that, which is fine. And I could have built a great, business from that, but that was never, fitness is it's just a sliver of your life. It's not your entire life. And that's what a lot of people kind of misconstrued me as once they would see my social media, because social media tells all. But like,
the gram doesn't lie.
There's reality,
the gram doesn't lie.
Yeah,
they would see just all, the shirtless pics, the competition stuff, and they just, Copernicus, he's just fitness. He's just that guy, like, that always works out. And so Actions Over Words, that's all that is. It's just a fitness coaching brand. And that's what it started as. Like, it did start as that. And because, fitness, showing up, doing something beyond yourself, I thought it was very applicable. So I was like, okay, I'll try and, build somewhat of a financial base with this, start off with the coaching. But I knew then and there that it just that's not what I wanted it to be. Like, it went directly against what I but at the same time, because I was like, I know people will seek my insight for coaching and things like that. So I was like, well, okay, I guess we're a fitness coaching company. And so I took a break from it for probably about 2 years, where I would just post randomly on social media regarding it. But it was I wouldn't even say it was like half-hearted. It was just like a quarter heart. I really was just not into it. And so I was just trying to find, like, Copernicus, go back to your roots. Like, why did you even start this as a thing? And it's to give light to the people, to give that recognition to the people that are performing acts beyond themselves, taking that initiative without promise of any monetary return or any type of return in general. And so I was just reignited once again. 2020. It just it opened the eyes, opened the mind a bit. It's like, hey, do you want to just keep doing what you're doing now? So currently I personal train, group fitness, absolutely very rewarding, and I love the in-person interaction. That's one reason why quarantine was so difficult. But I had to ask myself, I was like, is this what you wanted to do, or why did you start AOW? And it was to make positivity popular again. Like, as cheesy as that sounds, like, it was really the people that are performing positive acts. Like, I wanted to put that out on a pedestal, as opposed to all the like viral BS that gets put out now that serves no purpose, does nobody any good. I wanted to start highlighting philanthropies and charities and nonprofits, people that are doing these acts of good, but they're not getting the recognition they deserve. And so I've always been huge on storytelling. That's why I love I love putting myself out there on social media, things like that. just getting things to make people move and do something different. That's super gratifying for me. And so it all just kind of tied together, with actions over words. And so 2020 was a very big rebuilding, rebranding year for it. It found its identity again. So now we're selling merchandise, clothes, things like that, and we donate a portion of proceeds. I say we, it's a me. Like I say me because I'm the founder, but it's a reflection of our efforts. It's never just me. I can't do this on my own. So the supporters, people that embrace the brand and where AOW or actions over words truly resonates, like those are the people that make this happen. And so each month, selling merchandise, we like to donate a portion of proceeds to a different charity. It's our monthly mission, just so we can focus entire efforts towards this cause or this philanthropy or whoever it is. And it's also, what's cool about it is it's making people aware about just how many amazing organizations actually exist. So
that's great.
Which is, it's eye-opening, not just for me. It's really eye-opening for me, but like other people as well. They're like, oh, I didn't even know this existed. And you just scour the web and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's countless organizations that people just don't know about. And so just to kind of put a little bit of good into people's minds, because we're like sponges. We absorb whatever is like put in front of us, whatever's on our phone. And so I'm trying to just do my little part and just sprinkle a little bit of good in there, something that's a little more positive and something that's actually going to contribute to the common good. So that's where actions over words has been. And as of recently, fitness, once again, tied full circle with it. Whenever I compete now, it's only going to be to compete for charity. So that's the only reason. So
Correct.
I feel like there's a reason why, I was given the gifts that I have and I've overcome the things that I have. And it's because, I feel like my body was made to do something bigger. I've always felt that. And for me, if it could be to spread awareness about a certain issue or a cause or to raise money, then I'm going to utilize my fitness. I'm going to give my movement meaning. That's kind of the phrase that I've adopted in my head is just give your movement meaning. There's a reason why you're doing it. I mean, to do it for yourself is great, but I'm kind of past that point. It's just, no, I mean, there's too many people out there that need help.
Or you've accomplished that goal. Now,
right.
Now you're giving it a greater purpose.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there a particular sort of nonprofits that you look at? Or are you sort of, which ones catch your eye? Which ones are the ones that you're giving towards?
Yeah.
Do they have a theme, or are you?
Right, because it's so early on. So by the way, so AOW didn't really officially relaunch until December of 2020. So it's still super new.
Yeah.
It's kind of definitely the infancy phases of it. But when it comes to causes, there are certain things that resonate with me a little bit more. I love stuff that's based around the youth, just because who's next in line, to carry on certain things.
Absolutely.
And I think, especially with them being bombarded with all the toxic junk that's out there, so that's why one of our campaigns recently was Big Brothers, Big Sisters. It's just the proper mentoring and guidance and things like that. So I love youth programs. Anything that's really humanitarian based, I just really I gravitate towards things like that, but there's no set theme, honestly. For right now, it's just picking a different one. Like me doing the research prior, knowing that they're reputable, they don't just take the funds and pay their CEOs or whatever, and so knowing that the funds actually go to the cause itself. So doing that research on the back end, because it's unfortunate, but charities, it's it's for charity, but it's where's your money? It's a
charity to host a dinner to congratulate each other on the charity that we put together.
Exactly.
There's a lot of sketchy charities out there. Since you're finding that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. It's unfortunate because it's man, you took that label, you took something that's supposed to be so good, and it's just you totally just skewed it and manipulated it. But that's a sad fact. And so doing the research on the back end, knowing that your money's actually going towards the programs or whatever is offered. So we're just finding different things, but really, as I mentioned before, I just want to open people's eyes to all the organizations that exist. Sure. And, if they feel so compelled to contribute, and then by all means do so. But I'm also finding that me sharing these organizations, people have reached out to me saying, oh, you have no idea how much that organization actually impacted me, when I was growing up, like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I've had countless people just talk it was so critical. They were a single parent and I had to send my kids somewhere and something like that. And, whatever. So things like that, I was just oh, that's really cool. So it's a cool feeling. Just hearing those actual stories come from people.
Yeah. So if they want to pick up some merch, we'll make sure to put a link on, but if they want to pick up some merch, where could they go?
For sure. So it's actionsoverwords.co. So just .co, not .com. But yeah, you can find merchandise, a little more on our mission. I'm definitely a writer, so there's a blog on there as well. So there's a blog, but yeah, just a little more on what we're trying to achieve. And it's really just to leverage the stories of amazing people and their noble causes. That's the mission of the company.
Sweet. And your Instagram, how do people else follow you?
Yeah. So biggest platform right now for me that I use most is Instagram, and it's just my name, Copernicus_Johnson. And then also the brand page, Actions Over Words Co. Just one word.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So, wow.
He's verklempt.
I left it.
This is absolutely speechless. No, we want to thank you so much for jumping on, being our first guest, and it's been amazing to meet you and hear about everything that you're doing. I think you're aligned totally with what we're about and what we're trying to do. So we want to thank you so much for being a part of this. Yeah. And everybody, as you're listening, if you want to give us a rating, we'd love a 5-star rating. It would be great. If not, give us some tips and some good feedback. Let us know how we're doing. We're trying to get better at this as we move along. So thank you so much, Kenny. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Copernicus.
No, I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Great. All right.